Good morning, everybody. I'm instructed to wait because everybody's coming in, so we'll wait. So happy to see you all. Good morning. So wonderful to be here. So let's start with meditation. And we're going to do something new this morning. So the first thing is to run white light through your entire body. And the white light has nothing to do with gravity, but since we're so comfortable with that concept of from above downward, it's easy to bring in the white light from above and circulate it directly through our body from above downward into the earth and instruct it to take away any impurity that doesn't serve us moving forward in this moment. So just start running that white light, and you can visualize it as, it's almost like you're in a tube of energy, but there's no boundary. We're just setting an artificial one so that we can benefit. You could also look at it like being under a shower of white light. And of course, it's coming from infinite source. So there's no such thing as running out of this energy because it is connected. It is infinite resource. As well as being infinite source. And it's interesting that what made us hesitate is that the word resource has within it it contains the meaning of recirculating source energy. That's what resource in the big picture is. Because source energy can never be created or destroyed. It just changes form. So this morning, as part of our meditation, we're going to do something called soul retrieval. And what it is that we hold the intention within ourselves that we are magnetizing our inner with our request to call back energies that belong to us that we have, and the wording here is has to be careful. Energies that have fragmented off from us at various times in our lives that we require for our growth process. It's okay that we don't know what these energies are or why they fragmented off. That's not important. What's important is that we turn ourselves into a magnet for calling back all energies that belong to us that are needed for our further work. And so we do this by opening ourselves to receive. And we open ourselves in 360 degrees and call back energy that has been sent away that we need for our further growth. And there's no judgment about any of this. And we allow ourselves to receive. And if there's any part of you that doesn't want to do this, it's totally fine. There is no requirement to participate in this if it doesn't feel right for you. When you feel this process is complete, imagine turning yourself into a sponge to absorb these energies that have come. And be sure to access your entire body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes in welcoming this energy in. And when you're ready, you can begin to open your eyes, but holding the connection to every part of your body and every part of your spirit. As you allow the information from the outside a small part of access. But hold your attention inside always. And there's no hurry. Today is Diwali in India, where they celebrate the defeat of the darkness by the light and the dawning of abundance in the form of the goddess Lakshmi. And people make paper footprints that they put in their doorway to invite the abundance of Lakshmi into their homes. So we've taken that a bit further, inviting that into our bodies by returning that which is essential to us home. What greater wealth is there than spiritual abundance, living from our infinite resource? So how may we serve today? What's up? So we'll talk a little bit about what Rebecca's been working with in the last little while. And it's interesting because after decades of spiritual practice where what she learned to do was from any state be able to access love. And then she reached this stage of her evolution where it became obvious that going from a certain kind of anger directly to love was bypassing something, that it was a spiritual bypass rather than an effective spiritual practice. And because she's not able to articulate the difference between the bypass, what the real difference is that the darker energies that we are holding that continuously cycle at a certain stage, we have to stop and confront because they hold our power. And when they hold our power, but we have not embraced we're having trouble getting language for this. But we think we've said enough to give you the picture that and not everybody holds this rage. But for Rebecca, it's certainly been a recurring theme. And so the rage has to be actually accessed and transformed. And maybe the process isn't complete enough for her to be able to describe. But you have to actually physically hold the energy. And, there's this practice of punching pillows, like really having a physical release of that rage, which can be part of the acceptance of the power by physicalizing it, by materializing it. But that can only happen when you are in that moment embodying the rage. So this is just a discovery of a process that became it became obvious that the spiritual practices that I was doing were bypassing the essential work that I needed to do. And so this is coming, and it's really so potent and valuable, because energy, not any energy that you can't exactly take responsibility for, that we tend to blame others for, or I guess that's the way to identify it. That's our shadow that needs to be completely embraced as our own power. That we became separated from because we were mistreated in a situation where we didn't have the power to fight back. So that somehow got internalized in a way that we don't have access to our own power, and we see it as something else. We experience it as well. For Rebecca, for many years, the experience was road rage, which would just, come up. And we've talked about that before. And not everybody has that. So we can't generalize the experience, but everybody has something like that. We think that is an abdication of personal power, really. As long as you still have it and you haven't made friends with that energy, when you can get to the point where that arises and you say, hello, friend, what do you need? And it melts in front of you. That's something different. So that's all we're going to say about it for today, because that's all we can say about it at this moment. But we want to celebrate that. And it's made space for this retrieval, and we all need this retrieval. So that's not, and it's a practice we can do anytime to call back that which is ours that we've been separated from. And all we can say is that in Rebecca's experience, she's also studied a lot of shamanic work, and that there is a place for everything she studied, and there's a long list. But for now, we'll just stick to those two major themes. The rest are mostly healing modalities. But, yoga, qigong, things like that. Homeopathy, osteopathy. But the spiritual traditions, Buddhism, Hinduism, shamanic work. And that's not to say that she feels complete in any of that, because the completion is the fulfillment of all of that. And that may or may not have an end. So far, there's no end in sight. And that's just fine. And we're a little bit suspicious of any human being who does claim to have reached the end, because there's always more. And you can't learn unless you have some humility. Growth and learning are synonymous. There are all kinds of different layers of us that learn in different ways. And each of us is a different kaleidoscopic conglomeration of how we are put together and where our work is. And the reason we have more than one channel is because each channel speaks through their authentic vibration, their authentic set of frequencies. And so it reaches it reaches the authentic set of frequencies that you are in the frequencies that are appropriate to you. When we sit in meditation, then all those limitations disappear because it's pure, raw love that comes through, especially when we're not talking. The talking holds that energy too, but because it's coming through the frequency of a human being, it's coming through, we are reducing the quality of our frequency so much by the time it gets to two-dimensional language, third-dimensional language, sorry. By the time it gets to third-dimensional language, 3D reality, so much is lost that the connection to ultimate reality is there, no question about it. And one drop of that pure raw love changes a person forever. So it's not that you don't have access, but not so much through the words themselves. How may we serve? Yes.
You've said this, but I just want clarifying. So the process of fragmentation, which leads to need for soul retrieval and separating from parts of ourselves, and is on one hand, but it seems to me what you're saying is without retrieving these parts of ourselves, getting in touch with or owning our anger or whatever it is, especially if it's out of proportion with present time, may be very difficult or impossible.
So what he's asking is really about the relationship between soul retrieval and accessing the power behind the anger, for example.
Negative emotion.
Any negative emotion, yes. Well, the reality is this. There are practices where if you simply are in the presence of someone who has accomplished channeling infinite reality, that infinite reality can change you from the inside. However, we all have resistance to that change. And especially the darkest patterns that we have not been able to see through in ourselves, that we experience as creating an obstruction between ourselves and our access to divinity. That's how we experience it. And so understanding that that obstruction is created by, this is when it really helps to have the concept of self with a capital S and self with a small s, that it creates, that experience is created within us, and it's our largest self telling our small s self that we're not done with our work. If we take it that way, then eventually we will be led to explore the darkness, understanding that that is the shadow which is obstructing us from our own realization of pure raw love, of life as emanating from pure raw love through us. And, you know, we've talked before that the health in a human being is the capacity to flow through all emotions in relationship to what's happening in front of us. So we're not saying that rage is bad or necessarily inappropriate. What becomes an obstruction to us is the rage that cuts us off from our deepest self and causes us to search and search again. Now, it is possible to reach a stage where you just take a deep breath and that you're in the present again. And that's, you know, that's rage that doesn't obstruct. It just flows through and it's gone. You felt it, it's gone. That's health. It was appropriate in that moment. It wasn't taking you back to a misinterpretation of the present and ruining your day. And then, you know, it has the potential to ruin your life. So any emotion, and this includes joy, when it's the only thing you feel for a very sustained period of time that has nothing to do with experience, then that's also pathological. So we're saying any feeling that you have that is not reflective So let's say it in a different way. In equanimity, it all plays out in front of you and you don't identify with the feeling. It doesn't take all your energy. You're more of a witness and less of a puppet to your past. That's the easiest way we can say it. When the feeling comes and stays, it's most often because it's a unresolved energy from the past that's getting your attention. by creating an obstruction. Does that answer the question? And equanimity doesn't mean that you don't feel. You feel everything more than normal, because there's ultra-sensitivity, there's no barriers. There's awareness of boundaries, but not necessarily participation. There's awareness of energies flowing through. But as one of our teachers used to say, just because somebody hands you a shit sandwich doesn't mean you have to take a bite. But we'll tell you the truth. You know, the reason this has happened is because Rebecca practiced so many years, really faithfully, with great intention and intensity. And still, the shadow was there. And now it appears that that might be true for many people who did those same practices. And so, you know, she first went to shamanism and did a lot of it there. And now deeper. How may we serve? So really that question is about duality and non-duality in a way too, because duality is when we see things not as infinite source, but as two things, inside and outside, when really life is all one thing, a reflection of the diversity of infinity. It's one way you could say it. And that's from a, you know, that's from the perspective of equanimity. We are participating in the reflection of the multitude of diversity that ultimate reality has created, that we are witnessing a very thin frequency of. Because, face it, human beings do not have, there's a lot of our environment that we're not aware of. A lot. For example, dogs have a bigger hearing range than humans. We don't know what the insect realm participates in. We have no access to those frequencies. We don't know what birds experience. We do know that they are all connected always to infinite reality, that they don't have a choice about their connection. The only ones that really have a choice that we know of are for sure humans. Seems that our dog is always at peace unless we are not at peace. And then he's confused. So we have a choice. And that choice, when we're very young, we're not given that choice because we get programmed by people who have no awareness of infinite reality. No awareness of the fact that life in its greatest sense is non-dual. It's all one thing expressing itself that we're part of. And so things happen to us and we get feelings that are stuck in the dungeon part of reality, not in the heaven. And both heaven and hell are false. What's true is equanimity that embraces all of it, doesn't reject anything, doesn't aspire to pleasure over pain, understands that they're both from the same place. They are essentially the same, they're just different manifestations of the frequency. It's like a glove turned inside out. One side's pleasure, the other side's pain. One side's grief, the other side is heaven. All these polarities exist and they form axes, of experience. And the two sides of the polarities coexist always. And the place to be is in the center. But sometimes we have to go to the poles to reclaim our power because somehow we got stuck way over there and we need to bring it. We need to embody it to bring it back to where it has no positive or negative. It's just, it's energy, pure energy. And especially since most of us are women, it's, we have given up power or not felt that we were not allowed to accumulate power at various points in our lives, that even our own power was taken from us. Or we had no role models of women who knew what to do with power. But we don't have to hurt anybody to get what we want. And most of the time, the person we're hurting the most is ourselves. How may we serve? So it's not complicated. We concentrate on the highest best. We choose love. And when we can't, we watch and see what we are choosing. Continue to try to choose love. And when we don't know what to do, we ask deeply, deeply inside to be given the right question, ask the right person, to attract to ourselves what we need to make the next step. And try not to damage the love we've attracted into our lives that really is our birthright. And ask for more of that. That is in alignment with equanimity. Equanimity doesn't mean we don't enjoy our lives. You know, watch the Dalai Lama in conversation with almost anyone. There is a joy and a childlike humor and a freedom to totally be oneself. There aren't any boundaries. There are no hidden agendas. There's no politics. There's no nothing. I mean, there is politics in the sense that he represents something and he represents a population and a religion that, you know, the Chinese are trying to eliminate. He's always aware of that. I'm sure there's not a moment in his life that he's not aware of that. But where he actually lives in himself, you know, he's a 10-year-old boy and completely available to every experience. He's not in denial of anything that ever happened to him, and quite a bit did. And quite a bit happened to the people he loves. And of course, he feels that through the marrow of his bones in every moment. But he chooses joy because he can. From the perspective of equanimity, you have a choice. because you are fully in your power. With no need to prove it or even talk about it. He's free to live the ideal so that we see what's possible for us. But if we take it that he represents the impossible, the gifted, the gift we'll never have, or the set of circumstances we can never create, then we've doomed ourselves. So this is, centuries of inner work, lifetimes. And we've all had lifetimes of inner work to bring us to where we are at this moment. So we can be grateful for that. How may we serve? We hope we haven't put you off by bringing this subject. We can't always tell what the silence means. Okay, we'll take it. Thank you. Everything that we feel in any moment is either love or love in disguise. And we can understand that every breath that we take comes from love. And every exhale that we make goes back to love. And the more we can embody that, and the deeper we can embody that, the closer we are to being that, which is what we already are. This is why so many people refer to it as spiritual work as the journey home. It's very funny because when Rebecca first met us, we used to talk that way about home. She was like, don't use that word. That brings up a whole life of experience that I would rather not think about. So we stopped using it for a while. But it's really home. So however it resonates for you, it's fine. And it tells you about yourself and the quality of your own experience. It's all love. Nobody is kept from it. We have to keep choosing it. And the hot moments when we can't, just tell us where our work is. There is a divine magic to all of it. So everything is welcome. We don't have to reject anything because we begin to understand that everything we reject is a part of ourselves because it's all inside of us, everything. You know, if you have a dream that you're standing in a scene with a gun in your hand, don't be surprised. It all exists within us. You can be surprised, but you don't have to reject yourself because of it. Now, if you find yourself in life with a gun in your hand, that may be a problem. Or not. Totally depends on the circumstance. We do defend our lives. But it's Rebecca's belief that guns don't really help in that respect. They may take us closer to a do-over. We welcome your questions. It's kind of been a monologue. But it's a weird timeout. It's really a weird timeout. But in India today is a day to embrace and welcome abundance. And for us to welcome in the parts of ourselves that got away. Wholeness. From a spiritual perspective, abundance is wholeness, a unification into love, peace, joy, gratitude, equanimity. These are all parts of the same wholeness. And over time, the statement, I am that, becomes more and more meaningful. Because that is ultimate creative energy, source. So let's meditate. It's so wonderful to be with you today. We're so grateful for this opportunity. Really, really grateful. So happy to be with you. Thank you so much for coming. Bye for now.